Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of PMP's Den of Antiquities. Today, we are here to talk about Ahsoka and my reaction to the show. Can I just say off the bat, the 8 p.m. watch times is great. Whoever thought that idea at Lucasfilm or Disney, good on you, man, because doing the 2 a.m. watch parties, it was rough. It was rough, especially at the beginning, because you'd get like an hour episode and then you get like a 30-minute episode, or even if it's a 30-minute and a 30-minute, I'm staying up till, 3 or 4 trying to watch these episodes. And I love Star Wars to death, and I'm more than happy to do it. But being able to go to bed at a reasonable hour was definitely a plus. But we start off with the opening scene, and we get a crawl for like the first time in any Star Wars show. And I miss the crawl. I know it wasn't the standard one where it kind of fades back and it fades like basically off into the distance. It was more of like a, I guess Solo or like Rogue One, where it kind of just gives you an update about like what's happening. But red's my favorite color, so it being in red was cool. And then you get the overshot of the New Republic cruiser. I don't know if it was a cruiser or like a prisoner transport. I don't remember what they said, but it was cool seeing it. Like, it just got me in the mood for Star Wars. It just like set the tone, which is really cool. And this first episode to me had a lot of Phantom Menace vibes. I don't know about you guys, but just with the Jedi coming into the cruiser, I thought it was really cool. Baylan and Shin coming in and talking and being like, oh, well, you got pretty much everything right minus that word Jedi, and then just decimates everybody. Like, I thought that was kind of cool. The orange lightsabers were super sick. And I like the fact that, he says this line, "I'm no Jedi," and Ahsoka says the exact same thing. And I thought that was interesting that Dave's kind of playing with that like, the Jedi are kind of evolving because of Order 66 and everything. Like, they've been hunted to extinction, and there's still like a right way and a wrong way of like, Baylan and Shin are kind of going down the wrong path. And while Ahsoka might not be, that's also a thing. Ahsoka might not be going down the right path. She says that, I don't know if she says that in episode 2 or the first episode, but even right choices have bad consequences sometimes. I think she's talking to Hera and she says that. And I like how that scene kind of plays on that, because technically Ahsoka doesn't think she's a Jedi anymore either. And it just plays really well. So I thought that was good. Then we cut to Ahsoka, and she's kind of playing a little bit of Jedi Survivor, and the fact that she's kind of doing a, Indiana Jones style, like Jedi Survivor treasure hunt for this map. And man, the map is super reminiscent of, if you guys have seen Treasure Planet, it looks exactly like the orb from Treasure Planet, and it does the same thing when it's unlocked. Instead of it being green, it's blue, so it's a little bit more Star Wars-esque. But that was cool. I liked that kind of like the little circle thing that she does, and she falls down. Like, that was sick. That move was cool. And she does that later on when the HKs come in, which are also like the design for those. Like, they did such a good job with the design of this show. And for those who don't know, HK units have been around forever, man. The HK-44 was in Knights of the Old Republic, if you guys have ever played that game. But yeah, the HK droids were kind of a mix between like the HK units and also like the Magna Guards that General Grievous had in Revenge of the Sith, which I thought were really sick. Their designs are really cool. And then they like detonate, which we've seen that a couple times in Star Wars, where different droids have like detonation, like self-defense mechanisms in them. And I was surprised at how deadly this detonation was. I mean, it literally wiped out like the whole, that later on it's revealed that it's like a Dathomir stronghold by like the Night Sisters and stuff, but it decimated that whole thing. I guess there was 4 of them, so they all had them. But I was like, wow, man, that was intense. It was a cool scene, though, her running and seeing the explosion in the background. And then we kind of flash forward to Hera, which personally, I thought they did a really good job with Hera. I think she looks exactly like her. They could have picked somebody who's maybe a little bit more ethnical, because Twi'leks are kind of remnant of like Latin American or like African American descent. Like they kind of have those style features, but I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead did a great job with that. I think she killed it. She looks like Hera. So I'm excited to see kind of what she brings to the table because we haven't really seen much of her yet. So, and then it shoots over to Lothal for the next scene, and we get a shot of Ryder Azadi, which, for those of you who don't know, who haven't seen Rebels, he's like one of the leaders of Lothal, and then is like dethroned by the Empire and stuff like that. But a little fun fact that Clancy Brown plays him in the live action version, but not only does he play him in the live action version, he also voices him in Rebels. So I thought that was kind of cool. Clancy Brown is a really big component of a lot of the Star Wars. He played Savage Opress. He was one of the bad guy henchmen in the Mando episode where they have to break out a prisoner. I think that was in season 1. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've watched Mando, but that was cool. I like that they added him. Sabine, the actress for Sabine, looks like spot on. I think they did a great job casting her, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about we got for the first time kind of Star Wars like punk music, which I personally really liked. It kind of gave me flashbacks to Jedi Fallen Order when Cal's like on the scrapper and he's like scrapping all the stuff and he's listening to the Hun music. I don't know if they're called the Hun in the Star Wars universe. I don't know what brand they're called, but it kind of gave me a remnants of that. And this is a good example of like how Star Wars music is done right, because if you go back to like Boba Fett when they're in the like kind of like cyberpunk workshop fixing up Finnick, that music to me, like while it was good and sci-fi, it didn't fit the theme of Star. Like I don't know what it was. It just didn't really feel very Star Wars to me. Whereas this, it's kind of branching out from the traditional classical style Star Wars music because it's punk rock, but it still fit the theme. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then her pulling a Fast and the Furious underneath the fighter was pretty sick as well. And then we get Ahsoka and Sabine, which we don't really know much about because we didn't see that in Rebels. We kind of see Sabine getting apprenticed by Kanan a little bit when she's training with the Darksaber with Ezra and Kanan. But we don't really see the apprenticeship between, and there's a large gap because like Rebels takes place right before A New Hope, like I think like 5 to 10 years before A New Hope. And then there's the whole rebellion, with Luke, Han, and Leia and all that stuff, where I'm guessing Sabine was like an apprentice to Ahsoka. They worked together, and then something happened to where they weren't, they were button heads or they just weren't compatible. And that's what we kind of end up now. So there's a big chunk of time that we haven't seen. So that part's a little confusing to me. And also the fact that like Sabine's a Mandalorian and she's training to kind of like in the ways of the Jedi, which is interesting, but we'll have to see kind of how that develops and get more information as that goes along. But yeah, they're kind of clashing heads and not vibing really well together. And then we get another Phantom Menace kind of callback with Shin Hati, where she's using the probe droids to kind of search for Sabine. And in Phantom Menace, obviously Darth Maul is scanning Tatooine looking for Padme Amidala. So it kind of gives very reminiscent vibes of that, where the droid comes back to the owner and they kind of just sit there menacing looking. Even the music and the beats are kind of the same. And then we get the fight scene at the end with Shin and Sabine, which I thought was pretty cool, that they seem to be adapting like Terokasi, which we kind of see in Solo with Kira fighting the Pike, where she like throws her cape as a distraction and then does all her moves and stuff like that. Shin kind of does the same thing with Sabine, where she throws her cape and then instantly slashes, which is like super cool. Like the lightsaber fights in this show, I think, are going to be on par with like the prequels and stuff like that. It's kind of giving me those vibes, which is really refreshing, because I feel like we haven't had a lot of good live action saber combat in a while. That might just be biased in my opinion, but like, I will say, as cool as the fight is, I wasn't a big fan of her getting stabbed. I think that's happening way too much in There's a couple things in Star Wars that kind of bug me. The amount of Jedi that survived Order 66, it just seems to increase the amount, which I'm not super crazy about. that one I can kind of forgive a little bit because most of them tend to die off anyway. They're like, oh, they survived it, but they die like right before A New Hope. Like A New Hope, there's supposed to be like Luke and Leia, and that's really it. I get it that like that was made in the 70s, so things have evolved since then, but in George's original vision, like barely anybody survived Order 66. It was supposed to just be like Yoda, Obi-Wan, and like Luke and Leia, and that was it, you know. So I'm kind of protective of how many Jedi survive, and it just seems like as time goes on, there's more and more that made it slip through the cracks, you know. So we'll see with that. Like I said, that's not a big gripe, but the other thing that I was trying to say was the saber stab. I feel like it just like lightsabers are like not the same as they used to be. Like, and Obi-Wan, like he's using that thing as a baseball bat when he's trying to protect Leia. It's supposed to be very slash and, you know, cut through. It's like supposed to be like a hot knife through butter, you know. It's just supposed to just slice. It's, you know. So I'm a little like because she gets stabbed, and she really gets stabbed in the exact same spot. It looks like that Qui-Gon got stabbed, and I know there's some arguments that can be made for that. Like, technology and healing has advanced so much since the Phantom Menace. You can argue that there's the scene where Qui-Gon's meditating right before he fights Darth Maul, and for those who don't know, Qui-Gon was chosen by the Wills to basically be like immortal. You know, he that's how he can come back. You hear his voice. He trains everybody to be Force. He's the first Force ghost. So you can say that like maybe when he was meditating, he got a glimpse into the future and saw like a quick span of everything that was going to happen. So he knew that he had to die right then and there and kind of gave up. That argument can be made too, but I don't know. It's just, you know, Cal and both the Jedi Survivor games, the Survivor and Fallen Order, like he gets stabbed. Reva gets stabbed twice, once as a Padawan, once as you know, as when she's older, and it just, I don't know. I'm kind of tired of like everybody getting stabbed and surviving. The Grand Inquisitor also gets stabbed. It's not impossible for them to not like just to die instantly. Like I get it, but like I don't know. I feel like those should be a little bit more rare. Like maybe she should have got slashed or something, or force pushed, or you know, just something else that could have been. So that was really only my really gripe with the show overall, is that I didn't really like the force stab. I think it could have been done. The scene could have been handled a little bit better. But overall, I really liked the first episode. Like, if that's my only gripe about the episode, I think it's pretty good. So, and then we move on to episode 2, which I thought that was cool. They're playing with the ideas of like different galaxies, which is interesting for Star Wars because there's always like unknown space, but there was never like another galaxy or anything like that. It was just like uncharted space. So I kind of like that they're playing around with like the unknown regions and stuff like that, kind of going more so into even like Legends with like the Yuuzhan Vong, which, like, if you don't know what the Yuuzhan Vong were, and Legends, they're like a species that come from like the unknown regions that are like unaffected by like force abilities, and they're like super hard to defeat in combat, and it's a really cool premise. So I'm excited to see kind of what they do with that, because Thrawn and Ezra, that's apparently where they are, and they're trapped there because they're in another galaxy. They can't get back to their own. So it'll be cool to kind of see that. They're building a giant like hyperspace ring, which kind of reminds me of a mix between like Halo, the Halo rings, if you're a Halo fan, and also the Jedi starfighters from Attack of the Clones, with the ones that the Jedi lock into, the rings. But this one's like massive, so that's pretty sick. It was really interesting to see Corellia again. You know, we saw that in Solo, and we kind of get glimpses of it in a couple other shows, but I like that it's kind of like a factory, you know, planet. They're meant to like deconstruct and build. They built like the Star Destroyers, and now they're deconstructing the Star Destroyers. It was kind of cool to see that, and I like that they're still playing with the ideas that like the Empire isn't totally gone. Like you see all the workers kind of like mean mugging Ahsoka and Hera, and then Ahsoka and Hera go to their like main office. And surprise, surprise, the workers are still loyal to the Empire. They're still loyal to like Morgan, Elsbeth, and it was just funny because the guy's like, for the Empire, and then like Ahsoka and Hera just like wreck everybody, and like the main guy's like hiding behind like the 3PO unit, and he just kind of like pokes his head out. I thought that was kind of a funny moment. And then we get Ahsoka breaking through the window and doing the superhero landing, which was really cool. And then her running and fighting Merrick, and the HK droid was like super sick. And then we get Hera flying, trying to catch up. And I like that we're getting another live action version of Chopper. The first one was in Rogue One, where he just scrolls across the screen like nothing crazy happens. But of course, the first scene we get with Chopper, the first thing he recommends is that they shoot down the giant ship that's transporting the hyperdrive. And I was like, of course, Chopper chose chaos. Always chooses chaos. But yeah, that whole scene was cool, and I really liked it. And then we get the end with Ahsoka and Sabine teaming up. I'm wondering if that's like in Rebels, there's like the final shot where like Ahsoka's kind of dressed in all white, and she kind of almost looks like Gandalf a little bit from Lord of the Rings. And Sabine kind of turns, and they like Sabine's looking at the mural, and she turns and looks at her, and then they kind of go off on their journey. I wonder if that's like reminiscent of like where kind of Rebels stopped, and it's like kind of a continuation of Rebels, but we'll see. I like their dynamic, and I'm excited to see like the master and apprentice kind of thing play out more. I'm curious to see what Dave kind of has in his back pocket with that one. So those are my thoughts on Ahsoka. I'm excited to see kind of what they bring to the table, and I'm looking forward to what Dave has planned for us. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. I know there was kind of a lot riding on this show. Some people were cautiously optimistic. Some people were super excited. Some people were kind of just burnt out on Star Wars content. So I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say. If you guys want, I'm doing a live roundtable on Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm getting a lot of my Star Wars friends that have been on all the roundtables and stuff like that, and getting their opinions, and we're going to nerd out and talk. So definitely come by for that and hang out and give us your thoughts there too if you don't want to comment down below and all that jazz. And thank you guys for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.